Hello and welcome to the Utah High School Basketball Recap on OlyTV. My name is Mark Schwartz. Alongside me is
Jackson Bodley.
And we'll be your analysts for this report. Let's start off with Olympus men's basketball. They took down the Skyline Eagles last night on the road, 69-38. Jack, what did you see from the Titans in that matchup?
Olympus, they're clearly the top team in 5A, and they came into this game very comfortable at the top. And Skyline in a rivalry game, they brought their game in that first half, and the Skyline was a three-point game at the end of the half. Skyline had the intensity in the first half. What a response by Jack Still and Olympus in that second half. They outscored the Eagles 21-3 in that third quarter. They were a little stagnant in the first half, but they responded well. Their leader, Jack Still, came out in the third quarter and helped them to that 21-point win.
Colton Smith had a big night for the Eagles, dropping 19 points, but Wistersill and Dutch Dowdell really put the hammer down and helped the Titans secure their 15th straight win over the Eagles. Great to get another big win over Skyline. Looking at this Brighton game coming up on Friday for Olympus, what do you think Olympus needs to do to beat the Bengals, Jack?
I think they just need to start better in the first half. Against East, it was a close game in the first half, and that game finished as a close game. Against Skyline, a close game. They've had all these close games in the first half. Against Brighton, you know this is the biggest game for Brighton. You know they want this one really badly. They're going to bring their game. And so if you can distance yourself earlier in the game, in the first or second quarter, as opposed to the third quarter like we're used to, it's going to help you a lot in that game.
Moving on to Olympus girls basketball, they defeated the Skyline Eagles last night, 52-34 on senior night. Brooklyn Davies, Sarah Stringham, and Abby Topham all had big nights. Davies with 13, Stringham with 11, and Topham with 10. Big night from the role players for the Titans. The surrounding cast that maybe isn't always involved, Skyline forced them to score the basketball tonight, and they showed up big. Davies especially was very great, driving the basketball, getting inside, and finishing over Lilu Bear. Skyline is dealing with some injuries, but still a great win over a tough Eagle team. I just want to talk about Alyssa Blank for a moment. She and Mary Sheets were both contained by this Skyline defensive scheme. She didn't have a very good scoring night, but her playmaking and passing was on point against the Eagles, and that's what really got her other teammates involved and was able to get those secondary players scoring the basketball so efficiently. Jack, just talk about Alyssa Blank and her role as a playmaker moving into the playoffs.
Well, when you're the leading scorer in the team and really the state, each game the opposing team's going to key in on you, and there's going to be games against a talented Skyline defense where they stop you offensively scoring-wise. And so you have to have that ability to look for others and pass the ball well because they're going to be keying on you. And if you can do that, your offense as a total, as a whole, is going to be just fine even if you yourself isn't scoring all the points.
Olympus will take on the Lady Bengals this Friday on the road, a big game to close out the regular season. Widening our focus to around the state, let's look at some of the big games in the state of Utah for boys basketball. We see here, start out with Pleasant Grove Skyridge. Pleasant Grove, big bounce back win after they lost to American Fork. And Skyridge is a solid team, good win for the Vikings. What did you see and what do you think about that game, Jack?
Well, Pleasant Grove, they had a bad loss last week. And so going again in 6A, you have to get as many wins as you can against a team where you should beat last week. They avenged themselves here against Skyridge. They got their close win. It was a close win, but that's all you need in 6A. If you can get those close wins and just continue getting those consistent wins against teams that maybe aren't as talented, that's what you need in 6A to get to that top.
Our next game, Bingham Copper Hills. This was a good one. Bingham beat Copper Hills earlier this season. It was very close down the stretch. Bingham held to a 2-point lead for about, I think, the last minute of the fourth quarter. Copper Hills just couldn't get the ball in the basket and tie the game or take the lead. So a big win for Bingham. They stay, I think, the top team in the state. They have played a lot of close games, but they haven't lost one in a while. So what do you think about Bingham moving into the 6A playoffs? Are they the favorite for that 6A title?
I think they are. They've had some close games, but they finished out a lot of those close games. You know, you can't really look over any opponent in the 6A. Each team in 6A has the talent to pull off an upset at any time, and Bingham's done a great job of, even if it's close, getting the win at the end.
Speaking of an upset, Westlake gets defeated by American Fork. American Fork now rolling, a win over Pleasant Grove and a win over Westlake. They're looking like a very dangerous team. Because of their record, they're going to be seeded a little lower in the 6A tournament, and they're going to be a spoiler for, I think, a lot of teams in that 6A state playoffs. What do you think about American Fork's chance in the playoffs, Jack?
Well, there's no team you can overlook in 6A, and especially American Fork. They started slow, but they've had some great wins. Westlake right here, and they've playing their best basketball right here at the end. And if you're going to play them round 1 or 2, I'd be worried because American Fork, they are a very underrated team that's ranked a little bit lower than they should be.
Our final game, Lone Peak, Corner Canyon. Man, Corner Canyon stomps Lone Peak. Lone Peak, it's crazy. They are a good team, and they only have one region win. That just speaks to how great that 6A Region 4 is. Corner Canyon looking like the second best team in that region. Do you think Corner Canyon is a contender for this 6A title, Jack?
I think they are. Their record maybe isn't as high as the other top contenders, but that's because they're in 6A Region 4, which is so talented, and they pick up a few losses there. I think if you put Corner Canyon in a different region, they would be near undefeated and top of 6A. I think that's the only reason they're not ranked as high is because they've played a lot more talented teams than most.
That'll wrap up our recap show for you. Our next broadcast on OlyTV is this Friday when the Olympus Titans take on the Brighton Bengals for senior night. Me and Jack will be on the call, and it should be a great game, so make sure to tune in on Friday to that game. Thank you for watching. Go Titans!